today we are going to talk about, that says buying shares and selling shares in businesses. I think the only slide I didn't look at was the first one. Hopefully that's okay. No, that's right. We're in the right place. We're actually going to talk about IPOs. Sorry about that. We're going to spend all weekend talking about buying shares in businesses. Except for the bit that we'll talk about IPOs because, well, bad news is I have quite a lot to talk about today. The good news is I can find all of the time I need to do that, because the bad news is that unfortunately my guest speakers have a a conference call, an international conference call that got called at the last minute that they couldn't get out of. So they're going to come on Sunday and go back to a little bit of this IPO topic over the weekend. So my apologies for that. Sorry. I'm particularly sorry to people whose ears I'm coughing in right now. So what we want to do today is talk about initial public offering. So I'm going to use the acronym IPO, which is used a lot. I'm very sorry that those slides are off centre. It's annoying, isn't it? I should remember that so that I don't. Sorry.
The name of this course, Acquisitions, Takeovers and Mergers.
Yeah.
You seem to be talking about setting up a company, establishing a company. Are we, or am I missing something?
So what I'm trying to do is take you on the life of the IPO journey, the M&A journeys, the different kinds of M&A transactions that happen. So it is called acquisitions, takeovers and mergers, each of which are classic M&A transaction types. So we've started at the beginning, and I have been doing some refresher stuff in relation to company law provisions to make sure that we're all on the same page. But as I said last week, and the week before, where I started with, and there's a logic to it. So starting with, how do we fund at the beginning? What do M&A lawyers do in that transaction? So we started with the kind of transactions we're looking at, then we went to early stage funding. What I want to do now is listing. The thing is, you cannot get involved in takeover space at all unless you understand the listing process and what the obligations are that are associated with being listed. What we will spend all of the weekend doing is the buying and selling of, so the acquisition, divestment transactions. And then the last weekend we will look at contested takeovers and schemes in that takeover merger space. As I think I said in the very first class, when I first taught this subject and the slides were handed over to me as to what I should be doing, 95% of it was takeover stuff. And there are at least one of the course learning outcomes refers specifically to takeovers, where the rest of them are a little bit more. I am personally of the view that is putting the cart way before the horse. That the kinds of transactions that you need to be able to do in practice and the things that you will be involved in practice are so far away from the contested takeover space and much more closely aligned with buying and selling businesses. But if that's problematic,
No.
it's good to know. But I've come to it very much from my experience point of view as well. So we did a couple of slides I've got here. We'll move through very quickly because they overlap with what we talked about last time. But it's fundamental to understanding all of these listed company environment transactions is that the corporation's law sits on this premise of disclosure. So ASIC. Anybody tell me what ASIC is, what it does? The regulator. So the regulator of what? There's lots of regulators around. So what does ASIC stand for? Corporations Act, yeah. So ASIC is the Australian Securities and Investment Commission. So it has commissioners, not surprisingly. And its job is, as you say, to regulate that Act, the Corporations Act, and a number of other related activities. Its primary goal is to protect investors. Okay, just as the primary goal of the ACCC is to protect competition, so those of you who've done competition law will be well aware that the role of competition law is to protect competition in Australia, not to protect competitors from each other, but to protect the actual activity of competition. So ASIC's primary role is to keep investors safe. And as we looked at last week, the Act itself categorises investors into different bundles. So the technical language that we tend to use is either sophisticated and professional investors. They are actually different from each other. But effectively, sophisticated or professional investors are investors who already have money for funding, or they have a license or a permission of some type that shows that they have an understanding of the type of risk that they're taking. Then on the other hand, we have retail investors. So what we talked about last week was if you want to raise money from someone, issue shares to someone, or sell shares to someone, then you need to have disclosure unless an exemption applies. So some of the key exemptions relate to the type of investment it has, sophisticated or professional, or to the type of transaction it is. So the key one we talked about last time was the up to 2 million in any 12 months, no more than 20 investors. So when you think about it, most small business share sales will fall within that exemption anyway. If the price is less than $2 million and you're just selling to one person, you're already fitting inside that exemption. Now sometimes the price is significantly higher, but then obviously, or not necessarily obviously, because we haven't talked about it, but when you look at what the exemptions are, one of the exemptions goes to price. So if the amount of the investment is greater than $500,000, then an exemption often applies anyway. So what we're looking at though today is the situation in which you need to raise more money, and for other reasons you want to become a listed company, and what the rules are and how that applies. So as I said a minute ago, the law itself sits on this underpinning of disclosure. And so you need to disclose unless an exemption applies. And listing is the classic area in which no exemption applies. You do need to list. And for the reasons that I'll explain to you, in some ways, in fact, you have more protections as an issuer when you are issuing under a disclosure regime than you might in another regime anyway. So the key sections here are 706 and 707. So 706 is the one that says you can't offer securities for issue without disclosure. And 707 says if you're going to sell shares, that might also require disclosure. And in particular, if you're issuing them for the purpose of selling, then disclosure will be required. So we also had the very briefest as looked, but we didn't really talk about what any of this meant last time, as to what disclosure actually is. And there are a range of different types of disclosure documents. They're all listed under 705, and this actually comes pretty much directly from the section. This part of the Act was drafted, came out of what are called clerk provisions, Corporations Law Economic Reform Program, and they were sort of coupled with this plain English drafting approach that the legislation had for a little while. So you find these kind of sections that have these kind of maps of where to go, and it's actually quite useful. There's kind of no excuse for not going to the primary source. So the key kinds of disclosure documents, and we're going to focus on prospectuses, but there's also the idea of a short form prospectus, a bonds prospectus, we won't really cover those at all, profile statement I'm also not going to talk about. We'll talk about offer information statements very, very briefly. But basically there are different types of disclosure documents for different purposes. The other thing is, you can see from the map that the Act points you to what the requirements are for each type of document, what the procedures are for registering each type of document with the regulator if it needs registration, talks about liability and defences. We'll go through each of them as we go through each day. So, exemptions we also talked about last time, but I don't think I actually put a slide in front of you so you could see it. So, as I mentioned just earlier, sophisticated investors, your key issue there, and usually in small offerings, is do they have a certificate from their accountant that says that they've earned more than $250,000 or that they had 2.5 million in net assets, blah, blah, blah. But the other way is if the minimum payable for the securities is $500,000. So in most cases, when we're talking about buying and selling shares off market or private transactions, the reason we don't need a prospectus is because that exemption will apply. So we'll talk about that a little bit more next time. Looking at the quiz for there.